Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode tonight. Of course, Tarot Readings by Janine. You can find her work here at Sending Ravens and also here at Tarot by Janine on YouTube. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Janine, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Jean-Claude. Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Janine?
It's going good. I had a nice day.
Did you sleep well last night?
I did actually.
Yeah.
Well, I woke up about 3 times, but I felt rested when I got up, so it was kind of weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so I had weird dreams last night, a lot of them, and a lot of incoming messages, and it all had to do with this interview you and I did last night.
Yeah.
Let's share with the audience here who might not have seen this episode how absolutely incredible it was and how perhaps it did in fact speak to us through our dreams, and then we'll get into maybe what happened later today here.
Oh yeah, it was kind of the deepest one we ever did, the deepest live, and that was the comments too. Like everybody was saying, just we went into the deepest waters here, and profound sort of philosophies, and that always happens when I chat with my niece here. We call her, she's my niece-in-law, so she's married to my nephew. But yeah, that happens whenever we get, like, the conversation always gets really deep, really fast.
Mm-hmm. And it was funny because a lot of people in the live show were reacting. I actually admitted at the beginning of the show, oh my God, I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? And we were starting to realize during the show why perhaps all three of us had trepidations about doing the show. We're realizing perhaps the deep, long, maybe karmic connections that brought us to last night and then moving us forward in time. Do you want? It's too long to get into, so folks, please go check the episode. That was absolutely amazing. And at any rate, this morning I wrote an email to Robin, and she basically wrote back to Janine and I and said, "Oh my God, I'm in tears. Like we're right on the dot on what we've just downloaded last night, both Janine and I. So there's more to come, basically, on this interview. And if you guys are looking for this human design session, they're still available now. They're booking really fast. A lot of people have booked last night already, so please do go check it out, and you can find that here at soultemple.love. I'll bring that link back down here, and I'll put it in the pinned comments here also after the show. So if you guys are watching on repeat, you'll see that also. But one of the things that came up with her couples reading, let me bring that up for the audience here, the couples soul reading, was that there's a lot of fear out there that was coming up in the field where it appeared, at least from my perspective, and you can speak to yours here, how a lot of women were afraid suddenly of doing this deep analysis of their human design in front of their partner because they want to know everything about their partner, but they were afraid of sharing deeply what's inside them. How can you speak to that here a little bit and maybe encourage the people who are still in that frequency also to maybe rethink that position?
Yeah. Okay. As soon as that came up yesterday in the video, I was like, oh my goodness, that's me, exactly me. Like the last thing I'd want was to be, this is in the past. So I'm speaking in the past. I think I've worked through this. Let's hope I have. I've been working on that my whole life. Being seen, seeing others is easy, and I love investigating and deep diving into people's. That's why I did 35 years of tarot card reading. All day it was all about the clients.
Right.
But it's only been the last maybe 10 years that, first of all, I even realized I would never want, especially my life partner or my lover or my husband or whatever partner, however that was, I would not want them to deeply see me, and I would purposely choose people who wouldn't be deep enough to, or would be a little bit too self-centered to, like, I purposely choose people that are not interested in knowing me deeply, but would allow me to really investigate who they were and really enjoy that attention. So it was like, oh my goodness, when that came up, I was like, oh, that's me. And so when those voices came to you, that I think there's a large part of the population, and maybe more women than men, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's men feeling the same way too. But yeah, being seen deeply by your partner sounds downright scary to me, frankly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not that there's anything wrong with it's more of a trust thing. It's not that I have something to hide or I think I'm not worthy. That it's more of a I don't trust them to know me.
There's
And
fear involved. There's a
yeah,
fear
it's
frequency
fear.
there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Trust and fear frequency. And that's why we brought it up, because we were like, well, this is the time where we absolutely need to go through that fear and come
yeah,
together closer in our relationships
yeah,
as a couple, but also as family and friends. We're moving into this world now where all of that old stuff and those old programs need to go. So, guys, again, if you're watching this, go see this episode if you haven't already seen it, and check it out here at let me bring that back, Soul Temple Love, Soul
yeah.
Temple dot love, and I'll bring that on
Mhm.
the main screen for you guys as well. Okay, and yeah, quite a few people in the chat already are saying, oh wow, yes, it was an absolutely
Yeah,
amazing show last night.
yeah.
Yeah, and part two, there's going to be a part 2.5 maybe before the part 3. I don't know, there's something weird happening today too as we were decoding stuff, but we'll come back to that in another show. There's so much here tonight
Yep.
in the news. Let's start here, Janine. Just yesterday we had this mass outage around the world, and it really messed up our schedule. We were supposed to record, and suddenly all of our equipment and our streamcasting software was not working because of this worldwide outage. And now, so these are, of course, conspiracy theories that are saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as routine software upgrades." Come on, right? So the mainstream media is trying to tell us, "Oh, nothing happened, nothing happened."
Yep.
But there was something weird happening yesterday, and we're trying to figure out perhaps what that was. Was there a switch that was flipped, maybe? And does that lead into this? This is for Ontario here today, but I understand that you also had the same thing out in Alberta. Speak about
Yep.
that a little bit here. Let's set that up for the audience.
Every province emailed me. They all had it in Canada. So let us know if you're in the US or any other part of the world and you had this today.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, really interesting.
What's really cool, just now, not so long before the show here, we're getting this breaking news. I'm going to choose my words here because still, if it's breaking news, it's not necessarily mainstream yet, and it could be very much targeted in terms of the algos. But the Mr. B regime here is retreating on this. What you see on the screen here, the mandates. And so this, of course, is in follow-up to the stay that was ordered at the appeals court just a couple of days ago. So there's a big retraction now, and a lot of people just had a big sigh of relief who thought perhaps by, I forget the dates in the States there, but I think one was December 4th and the other one was January 5th or something. These were drop dead dates and for them to get the thing in order to keep their jobs. So apparently that right now is in retreat mode. So that's a big piece of news. And I was thinking, are we forecasting that something's about to come down the pike here? And that's why we had these outages. Perhaps somebody else is taking over the levers of some of our internet and our communications in order to perhaps bring more of this news here to the forefront. Let's pick some cards and see what universe wants to tell us here is happening in the background with respect to all of this.
Wow. It does look like it's connected to sort of white hat op somehow. So that they're up to something here. So they they needed time for something. They needed time to do something. Okay, this is interesting. And this was in the middle. So the energy I get from this one, I just looked at it in the middle of those two cards. So this one and this one. The energy I got was cutting ties. So they're cutting ties with an old, and then this ending card in the past. They're ending something, moving into something else. Something's getting taken down and something was being replaced. And then this is the new birth card that came afterwards. So there's something brand new going in, and it's a new source. So that sounds like they're replacing, or they needed time to restructure something and putting their own things, because this is a new birth. This was at the top, which is ending. Something ended, and is being taken down or dismantled or cut ties with in order to facilitate a new birth of something new. And it has something to do with these guys, and they needed time.
Okay. Let me bring this up. Our friend David Morgan, the Silver Guru, put out this meme earlier today, and it has to do with the movie They Live. You know, when you put the glasses, you see reality. And of course, without the glasses, you see the Federal Reserve. And then suddenly when you put the glasses, you see this defunct, old, broken structure. I thought that was absolutely appropriate. Now, is this perhaps the ties that we're breaking now with this old central bank warfare economic slavery model? Is that possibly what's in the works here from behind the screen? Let's ask the cards.
Funny you're saying that, because there was also some things. Was it that magazine we were talking about with the covers, the really cool covers with the terrible?
The Economist magazine talked about the London Bridge is falling. That one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if you think about it, I think the British monarchy are sort of the head of that system, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
If all roads lead back to them, don't they, when it comes to banking?
I think they go through the city of London and then eventually to Rome, but it's part of that trifecta, yes, of the three city-states. You're right. Yeah.
So some people were thinking they were that magazine's been signaling the eventual, like that picture showed.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Falling apart of, yes.
Right. Okay.
Like the picture of the building all coming down. Yeah.
It could make sense that the monarchy in a way is tied in for sure, like the big R's, and the child. You guys know what the name is. That is, of course, related to our warfare model. It's possible that the breakup of this Commonwealth and the monarchy system could in fact have that domino effect down the line here. But let's bring it up a little bit closer to the actual, what you were saying. There's a severance of ties with the old to bring in the new. Let's ask the cards if that's specifically related to the financial system, or is there something else that's happening here that we need to pay attention to that maybe we didn't think about?
This is it's looking like less. So yes, something's breaking apart and there's a rebirth of something else. Same two cards, but in different placement.
Okay.
And something we can look forward to. But none of it's pentacles other than this card.
So there's no real money involved.
Yeah, I don't necessarily get that exact thing is about money. It's about our freedoms. So all of the mandated things that are taking away freedoms.
So it could be more related to this then. We're breaking away from this whole plan.
Yeah.
I'll say plan, and you guys can fill out the rest of the words here to maybe start retracting that. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's follow on let's ask the cards again then. Are we seeing a reversal or the beginning of a reversal here from this self-selecting euthanasia campaign? Yes.
First card pull. So no need to, and it has, and this is what I was picking up on that last one that I didn't quite get a chance to say yet. Mainstream media. So something they're doing, all of this links to the gradual and then maybe really fast takedown of the mainstream media, which we know we've been waiting for. All of this stuff's been happening, and we've talked about it for months, and so people start to think, oh, it'll never happen. But guess what? It's going to happen. And we said it would back then. Cards are funny, and a lot of my 35 years worth of clientele, a lot of them will tell you it doesn't matter. Like if you get the same message over and over, like we have, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And in this particular case, in this spiritual sort of war that we're waging, or we're protecting ourselves in this situation we're in, it's all about operations and not about timelines. You got to take the idea of timelines out of it and say, okay, this has to happen, then this can happen, then things have to go in a certain sequence But
Yeah.
there's all kinds of reasons for it.
Jim Whitley tells me that all the time. He says, "Don't ask me about when. Just look at the events. The events in
Yeah,
sequence are going to happen that way. Yes,
that's
there's going to be detractors, and this is a war. There's a ebb and flow type of thing. But talk about events. When you see this event, you know that this event is going to happen, and so forth and so forth. When that we don't know. Nobody knows."
Can I tell a story about a tarot card reading that could give a good example of that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so of course I would never mention anybody's name.
Yeah.
But a really long time ago, I did a card reading on somebody, and it wasn't official. Like they didn't come to me, pay me for the reading, whatever. We were actually sitting around drinking some wine, actually. And normally I don't read cards when I've been drinking some wine, but this time, I decided, sure, let's do this, right? So this gal and we were sitting around. And I started telling a story. It sounded like a story, even to me. I thought it was, I must be just telling a story. I'm just making this up because it just flowed out my mouth, which often happens. And I told incredible details about this person meeting somebody. I got that the person would be a widower. They'd have 2 sons, they'd work in this industry, they'd live in this spot, but they'd happen to be over here where that person lived, blah, blah. And I even said they'd meet them on a full moon. So I got the whole story of exactly how they'd meet and everything. Like it would be a total fluke, how the person they'd end up in the same spot together. So I said it'd be like next year. I remember the year it was supposed to be. So we'd laugh about that reading every once in a while. And then I remember getting, I don't know if it was a text or an email or something, because I'd moved off island by then. The person that I told the story to said, okay, well, where's this partner I'm supposed to meet? Ha, 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 right? And then I remembered the reading and we had a good laugh because obviously it sounded like a big story. Mm-hmm. 2 years after that, so 3 years, I said the next year, 3 years later, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen in this case, but 3 years later, the exact thing all happened in the exact sequence, and the details fell exactly into place. And that person called me up, or I can't remember, emailed me or whatever, let me know. Yeah, it happened exactly like I said. Every detail, click, click, click.
That's funny too, because Cliff High has the same thing. The longer something is in the data set, the more we know it's eventually going to manifest. It just keeps building and building, I guess, in the model space, or what he calls model space mom. And it eventually does manifest, just like that $600 silver. Apparently, we're just on the cusp of now. We'll get into that here a little bit later in the show. Before I do that, let me do a quick update. Also here, I've got the tip jar on the screen for you guys. A big thank you to all of you supporting this show. Carla just emailed me this one today. This one is going to the PayPal tip jar donators this evening. The name of this pyramid is Iris. So let me play that and see what Carla has to say about it.
Hi everyone, this is Carla from Ascension Organites. Today I have here one of my purple pieces. Her name is Iris. She's made of amethyst crystals and aluminum metals. So I've received tons of messages asking what piece would work well for stress relief and anxiety, even sleep problems. Well, Iris is great for that because amethyst has all those healing properties and more. So I would place Iris in the bedroom, even kids' bedroom, also because amethyst is known to have like protective properties. She also has the flower of life in silver. I'll give her a quick turn around so you can see her. So yeah, I hope you like her. See you soon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carla, for donating this tonight for our PayPal to our donators. Absolutely beautiful. I love these colors. I really do. And Carla also sent me an email update earlier today saying that she's working really hard on the orders. A lot of them are going through. She's pushing out all of these amazing new pyramids for you guys. And Etsy finally got back to her. They're kind of like, oh, okay, we see this is not a fraud. You're actually fulfilling the orders and all this. So apparently her shop will be back online by the end of the week, or so Etsy says here. So I think she's almost out of the Etsy jail here, because of course she's too successful with her pyramid. So as soon as that's the case, we'll bring back the links for you guys so that you can order more. But Carla's like, well, it's almost a good thing. It's giving me time here to kind of finish all of these amazing orders for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, let me bring the volume down here. It was a little bit too high. And the other thing too, on Monday, Janine and I gave away insider access pass to one of the PayPal tip jar donators, and that winner, let me bring that back up here, is Karen Hart. So Karen Hart, you're the winner of this insider access pass, which gives you a year's access here to the series content here on beyondmystic.net/pay-per-view. So later tonight, I'll send you an email with all of your codes to log in and all of that stuff. So a big congratulations to Karen, and a big thank you to all of you who supported us on the Monday show. And just to let you know, also, if you guys are interested in that, the coupon code 10% off here, Stay Connected, is still valid. Janine and I extended that again because, of course, of all of these outages that are what we were predicting when we put this coupon code together. So we're hoping that when we see some of these banking outages, if you're already paid and connected to the back end, you will still have content access rather than having to go through some of these disruptions here at the payment service levels. And on that note, there's a few people emailing me about, hey, my PayPal's not working. I don't know what to respond to you guys other than contact them directly, contact your banking issues. We're seeing more and more of that, and it has nothing to do with the site. It has to do with the connections between these payment services and different provinces and countries around the world. So it just is what it is right now. It's a little bit frustrating, but again, as Janine had pulled cards on, we're going to be living with that sporadically here moving forward. Okay, next news item for tonight. Let me bring this one up. This is interesting here to me, Janine, here in this whole idea of supply chain management. Now we're having these unusual floods that are coming out of this atmospheric river. And of course, in the west of Canada right now, the port of Vancouver is shut down due to being cut off here from the rest of by mudslides and due to these atmospheric rivers and all of that. Can we pull cards to see if this is man-made somehow? Is there a reason why they're trying to stifle or to cut off supply here to Canada? Like we've seen some of these man-made events here in terms of our supply chain management in the last couple of months. We've pulled cards on that. And I'm curious if this is one of them. And if so, is it the good guys or the bad guys maybe behind it? Let's start there.
Manipulated for sure. So that strategy and that card is yes. So yes to manipulation, but this is really weird. This is really weird. It seems like it could be good guys. Now, I don't have a clue why they'd manipulate the weather the way that it's creating this kind of issue, because we know that in British Columbia, all over, and I'm sure into that west coast of the U.S., there's all this flooding and incredible rainfall, and I've just been hearing about it like last night and this morning. Really, I hadn't even looked into it at all yet. I just started hearing about it. So it's been manipulated, yes, and it's been manipulated. But this is weird because it looks like it's by the good guys. Like this card again is about needing time, maybe take some time so holding things up on purpose somehow. So they've got a reason. So maybe what we should ask is, what would the reason be?
Okay.
Because that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of guessing you're going to get a non-answer to that one, maybe, if we're buying time. Let's see, though. It could be interesting. We'll go to the PayPal tip jar after. Brandon Henry will be next here. So big thank you again to those guys in the PayPal tip jar. And after that, we'll jump over to the Insider Access Pass Discord chat as well to pick some questions from there.
Definitely confirming it's by the good guys. Very strange. And some of what they're using is off-world technology, or sort of beyond what we know is the technology. So we know both sides have weather technology. They've and duking it out. Okay, past, present. No, you're right. I said, so what about it? Okay, not get to know what it is. They need time for something. That's all we're getting.
I feel it has something to do with underground.
They're not telling us.
Mhm.
Yeah. They need time for
Mhm.
something. Something's going on. Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Likely underground, because it's all happening on top of the ground. So
Right.
that will maybe clear the way for things they're doing underground without being seen. I don't know.
Mhm.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is
Well, in the meantime, go ahead.
the big deal, though. Whatever it is, it's super necessary, and it'll lead to people being called to justice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a war, and in war there's casualties and there's disruptions. So even though these might be man-made, they still might cause havoc in your local grocery store. So, you know,
Yeah.
be prepared. Janine and I have been talking about this for a while here, not for eternity, but, you know, for pockets of time here. So if you're in charge of family, children, and you want to make sure that you're not stuck with these outages or disruptions to your supplies, maybe think about it. And it's funny, we had the EBS today saying, oh, everything's fine, nothing here. You know, don't go panic shopping here. We're just testing our emergency broadcast system. And as I heard that, I'm like, don't worry, everything's okay. So I'm like, okay, worry, nothing. You know what I mean? My mind wants to go in the opposite direction when I hear them lie like that. So anyway, so stay prepared, guys, I guess is what we're saying. Okay. Yeah. First question here from the PayPal tip jar. Can you guys see that? Okay, yes. So this is Brandon Henry. JC, my birthday is Friday, November 19th. Okay, 2 days. Well, happy birthday. Been feeling really intense energy for the last week or two. Janine and I were talking about that just this last weekend. Can you ask Janine what the eclipse will bring? Love you both. Hankowitz. Oh, Hankowitz. Okay, that's a nickname in the chat. Okay, Brandon Henry is Hankowitz. Okay. What will the eclipse bring for Brandon Henry? And isn't the eclipse on the 19th itself too? Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
So his birthday is on the eclipse. Wow.
Okay. That is cool.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I got was, what'll it bring? Whatever it's, the biggest thing it brings has something to do with integrity and eventual more comfort and wealth for everybody. So some kind of something that's being worked on that would eventually create more wealth and truth in our world. Something we've been waiting for. Okay. But I don't think we'll see it right, like clearly that day.
But it's one of those things, maybe a month later you look back and like, oh, that was that day when all this started or something.
It brings it a lot closer. Yeah. So we've got these two cards here. So it's going to be covered up by other things, but it's a big thing happens. Okay. And then it could even lead to or be the breakthrough I was talking about that then shows itself. Surrender. So the breakthrough happens on that day, but we don't hear about it. I'm thinking for some days afterwards. Let me just pull a card on how many days after, or maybe we're talking hours. Let's hope it's hours.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a positive thinker.
Yeah.
4. So within 4. And if it's cups, it's not going to be hours. Wands or swords could be hours, but cups would be days because I asked in days. So I'm thinking 4. So within 4. So it'll be sitting there, but it'll take some time to really filter into the knowing.
Okay. Wow. All right.
I think there's a breakthrough that happens, and it could come in lots of levels because breakthroughs are like energetically, it's like a breakthrough where the way I feel when I think about the breakthrough I keep talking about for this month is it turns the ship around, or it starts going in the direction we want visually. because we know that things are apparently going in this good direction in the background, in the back channels. We've been hearing all of these things, but we don't see it.
Right.
So we need something to show us that the boat's pointing in the right direction, like the truthers, the digital warriors. There are things like daily coming out, but we need to literally have something we can say, okay, we can point to. And so that's what I think we're talking about.
Well, here too in this news article, if you go read, they're being swamped by legal challenges, and they're drowning in legal challenges.
Yeah.
And one legal challenges creates precedent or jurisprudence for the next one, et cetera, et cetera. And the same thing is happening here in Canada too. Our federal government too is now being swamped with all of these challenges, exceptions across the board in every ministry. So when you run that through, if you play that timeline through, it's kind of like when Janine and I were saying a month ago. I think Monsieur Legault, even though he doesn't want to admit it, he's already failed. It's just going to, be a delayed timeline here until he capitulates, and then he eventually capitulated to the healthcare workers. So that's interesting. Okay, so let's go back to who is that again? Brandon Henry, and somebody in the chat says, "Okay, let's go, Mr. Brandon." I won't sing the song, but anyways, that's funny. All right, I love that. Okay, next question. Let me see if I can do this here. Jen M. So Jen M. Question for Jason Janine. What am I doing at night while I'm asleep? It feels like I'm off-world working, and I wake up tired. From Jen M. in the Discord chat.
She's a warrior of some kind. These two cards together could indicate warring of some kind. So, or in her spare time or her sleep time, she's a warrior. She's absolute. And oh, by the way, this one would indicate travel. So if she thinks she's off world, she likely is. Okay, but she's working for the good though of humanity. So she's doing good, and she's in her soul essence. She kind of knew that. She knows that. So just ask yourself quietly when you got some quiet time to let it really come to you exactly what you're doing, because you know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a level of awareness there with those cards. She knows.
Okay.
And it's something she's thought, wouldn't it be cool if I did this and this? You know what I mean? She's thought it, but it's actually, she manifested doing it.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. Next, let's go to this news item here. Cliff High was interviewed by Greg Hunter. You guys can check it out at usawatchdog.com. Did you actually see this episode already, Janine? I know you posted it, I think, yesterday.
I did. Yeah, okay. I did that today.
What maybe are the highlights for you from your perspective, and then I'll ask you questions here moving forward, and how that ties into some of the conversations I had today with Mr. Rob Kirby, which was absolutely fascinating also. So what were your highlights in this?
Well, he's talking about things that I do part ways with him on some of that, what I heard, but it's okay. It was great information. So what he's getting is obviously the demise of the way things are, which of course have to change. But if you're not okay with that, that's going to feel like the collapse of your civilization. Okay, I just don't view it that way, because I think it was already in a collapse, nosedive, and serious repression. So I'm happy to bring it on. Give me the change. Good. Let's redo, because I love new stuff. I love moving. I love upheaval. I love it. Not all the time, but I'm okay with it as long as it's for a good thing, for a good reason.
Yeah, and this type of collapse, as it's indicated on the screen, would be okay for me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he was just projecting, into the future, all of these things coming. Yeah. But you can absolutely do that. But the one thing I thought he was missing was the element of, for every action, there's an equal reaction. And I think the universe has moves, and it's been making moves. And I think there has been things going on in the background that are counteracting a lot of this stuff. How many times have we thought the human race is, okay, we're doomed, we're in history, like we are not going anywhere. We're going to ride this out and recreate and evolve, and we'll be the better for it. So that's the part that he doesn't add that gets me a little bit anxious listening to what he's saying. Okay.
Well, in this particular interview, to be fair, he didn't add it. But he's mentioned things like that in the past on his BitChute channel, where he knows that these are cycles where humans are brought to the edge of extinction only to hit that wall and come back from it. So there's that ebb and flow throughout history. And of course, we always prevail. And he's also very clear that even though there are going to be casualties to this war, that we are in fact going to prevail and actually initiate here into sci-fi world. And he's really excited about the future. So when he's talking about this systems collapse, he's talking about at some level, we're going to see things next year and the year after that look completely different than what we were looking at 2-3 years ago. So, okay.
That's absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's look at this character here in the boiling frog scenario. This was Janet Yellen facing the nation and, of course, lying about inflation. Now, you and I were tracking this in the last Beyond Crypto Woo report. We indicated also that it was actually accurate what Cliff was predicting, that the Biden regime signing this new infrastructure deal would bake in the cake this last mad rush here towards hyperinflation and then panic to own into crypto, silver, and gold. And this is what Rob Kirby was saying on the show here today. So I want to ask Yellen as the character here, and of course, we're the jumping frogs coming out of the water, not believing her anymore. We're done with this stuff. Is she also playing a role to maybe wake up some of those individuals to realize, hey, they need to start moving into different directions and not maybe staying in these old petrodollars that are burning right now?
And is she sort of the go-to?
Yeah, she's the secretary at this point. She used to be at the Fed, and now Biden named her as the, I believe, the Secretary of Finance in the States, how it's called.
That's why I can't listen to her. Okay. Yeah, you got to look at the clubs people are in.
It's called Secretary of Treasury in the States. I was close. Here in Canada, it's Ministry of Finance, and we were close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so she doesn't seem to know. She actually seems to be somewhat in the dark. She's quite disappointed in the way things are going herself, but is pretending to not have a clue about what in her deep heart she knows.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think she's playing on either side per se. I think she could be just somebody caught up in the mix of the agendas and not really seeing past white hats, black hats. Maybe she doesn't even get that.
Wow.
How do you like that? Yeah, none of these cards. It's like she's in the dark somewhat, or she's purposely staying out of that. I'm staying out of it. Wow. I'm going to pretend I don't know anything about that. Right? She's very disappointed in, in her heart, she knows, things are crumbling. But here's what she's doing instead. She's just faking it till she makes it.
Well, a couple of years back, when she was the head of the Federal Reserve, in a weird speech about how everything was okay, you could tell in her voice that she was crumbling under the pressure of lying, and she almost fainted. And we always thought after that, was she like being forced to say these untruths to the public? And was she also forced here to come back under the Biden regime to continue that same narrative? And is she just maybe beholden somehow to just play along and read the script, and she doesn't really know what's going on other than she's forced to read the script right now?
Oh, she's definitely like made a deal on some back channel. She's got some kind of deal that she just reads it. Right. But what I'm getting is she doesn't really deeply think about or investigate the sides at play. And maybe she does that on purpose because the fool card was there. She doesn't want to know. She's just doing her job, which her soul is probably really disappointed in her for doing. Right.
What's that word again? Useful idiot. You don't want a useful idiot as your Secretary of Treasury, but okay, under the Biden administration, that makes perfect sense, of course, to have useful idiots. Just like in that country you and I were talking about Monday, that excluded all the politicians who were not taking the product, and now they're no longer allowed to vote and speak on behalf of the population. And I said, well, yeah, remove all the smart people from politics. How, what could happen? Oh my God, it's just so crazy. This world is absolutely crazy. Joan Wilson. Okay, another birthday on the 19th. You want to do that? That's amazing.
Sure.
Okay, Joan. All right, let me bring this up. Can you guys see that? Yes. Okay. Hey, you crazy kids. Haha. My birthday is also on Friday the 19th, and it's a big 7-0. Wow. Okay. 2010, 17 was brutal. Okay, hopefully my remaining time will be better. Okay, let's take an outlook for perhaps the next 70 years. Janine and I were talking about the fact that our lifespans could very well increase here in the very near future. So go check out the episode from last night with Robin McLeavy, and you'll see why we were saying that.
I wonder if the reason it was brutal for them, or that's what they're saying, is because they were too aware of all the shenanigans, and even way back then. And that would make it brutal, because some people just woke up last year or the year before, like myself, and already it's like, okay, let's get this movie over with. But if you were awake for years and years, it could be, yeah, I could see that. But I'm just assuming that with that devil card. But it's definitely been, I would agree that it's been a hard run for sure. So that part's absolutely correct. Okay, so we've got the 4. So they're going to need to decide mentally how they want their future to be. So they have an opportunity to choose a future. So we've got this person doesn't realize they can choose this cup. They don't need to stick with this scenario, or this truther's version of it, that truther's. Make up your own version, okay? And decide mentally, how is it going to be? Decide to step out of, okay, that's the past. I don't know what I was learning there, or maybe you do know, but where am I going? Because it's going to be way better. And have a mantra that literally says, in the next 10, 15, 20, whatever you visualize, it has to be believable to you. I'm going to create the best years of my life. Just decide that, because the potential's huge for that. You could have a complete switch around from brutal to amazing.
And universe abides. Absolutely. Okay. There's a gazillion people asking in the chat on repeat here. JC, will California decertify? Okay, I heard you. I saw it. Okay. Janine, let me bring it up. Will California decertify?
Okay, so, run me through what's going on there.
Well, this whole race, Gavin Newsom and all that stuff, the recall, and now we're seeing that perhaps there was some shenanigans in the back. Newsom disappeared. Now he's back. Is he the right guy? Was he replaced? Has he been executed for the weird things in his basement? And so they're curious to see if this election or this leadership in California will basically be upended and return to clarity. Because when you and I pulled cards during the election, you pulled the cards that, in fact, at some point in the future, we would get the truth out of all this, but it would take time. So what they're asking is now, are we still on track maybe for this decertification?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
They're working on it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to get flipped.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's the answer.
Awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because everything's built on a big fat, you know what?
Well, okay. On that same note, in this interview, Greg Hunter was asking Cliff here if Mr. T was coming back. And Cliff was saying, well, in his data, he doesn't have accuracy on the long-term data anymore because of the pollution. He explained that in the show quite a few times. Basically, he was asking him, okay, so if Mr. T is not coming back, what do you see as maybe some crucial events here that would remove confidence in the bonds? And what Cliff was responding was that there's going to be a shakeup in the political system. So that didn't necessarily mean that Mr. T was coming back, but it appeared that by January of 2022, there would be an uplifting or a better mood. So it seems that at some point we would have resolve on the last results, and perhaps a reversal somehow, or clarity on what those actual results were. And I guess that's the best I can say it here without getting into too much trouble. So let's ask the cards. Is that correct?
Yep. Yep. It's been a long, slow process. This guy to get back seated, long, slow, painful, and the world comes around full circle, steps into, like, the world is a whole new, it's going to be in a whole different way though. So what you view the government as is going to be completely different, because the world takes you to a whole different level. And then I had victory. So I'm sticking to it. I'm saying, yep, he is going to come back on some level. It might just look different what they call it, or they might call him a different number. They might, there's a, like, it presents differently, but it's a victory for this guy that we've all been waiting for. People
Right.
that fully, you know, put their little tick.
Well, here on the same, okay, so let's go back to California here. Somebody was saying that, oh, Phil G just said that CA will decertify the 2020 results. Not just just came out with that. And you realize, guys, when we're doing these live shows, this screen is moving so fast. It's one thing to ask a question, but if you don't give us the backdrop, and when we have get some of the other questions in the queue, it's hard for us to understand. So we're doing the best that we can, and we appreciate your patience here and us trying to respond to your questions with the appropriate context.
So we know the competition that happened in November 2019, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it 2020? No, it was 2020.
2020, yeah.
Yeah. So we know that was demonic. I can't say the real words, but we know that it was messed around with. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And so this is about justice and truth. So it's like, this happened. This has been happening in the background. The past, it's been very confusing, and it completely in the dark, and they've completely shadow banned any information about everything that's been going on around that whole topic. So things have been ongoing and steadily gaining to the advantage of truth and justice. So and there's a lot been going on under the surface that you don't see. See, the thing about this card is harvest. They're going to harvest something when it's ready. So right now we're sitting at, when it's good and ready, they're going to harvest the truth and justice that they've discovered about this obvious thing that happened that was definitely wrong. Okay?
Yeah.
And totally dysfunctional. Okay, so they're going to harvest all of the hard work they've been doing on the background that a lot of us didn't see or don't even know that's going on, even more than even the truthers know. Like, okay, and here's the results. So it's still gonna, for some reason, there's still holdups. But now this is interesting, because this is a minor arcana. So this could change, and this could be days away. So it will eventually come, but they're holding out for something. So there's something they're holding on to it'll be to the bigger advantage, but it's painful because everybody wants it to happen tomorrow. And let's pull two more. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things though going on we don't know about. we're going to be really glad it went this way, even though it's difficult. So yeah, it's going to get that word.
Right.
Okay. And upheavaled and changed back to a truth. Truth and justice is going to prevail. And it's really obvious that none of it was true. We'll just say it like that, because we have to be so careful. These words, like just the fact that we're talking about it's a little scary, believe it or not. That's why we haven't talked about it, except on those uncensored. But anyway, so yes, it's going to come around, but not tomorrow. It'll take a little more time. There's some other things that have to get put into place first.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. What was interesting in that interview, Greg was asking also, well, what's happening to the financial system between the Evergrande bond debacle? They lied about making the payment, they didn't make the payment. And we were talking about or reviewing some of the older remote viewing data from the guys at Crypto Viewing, Decal Geyer and Company. And this was a result of a target that was called the death of the petrodollar. And this was the remote viewers seeing these congressmen coming out of meetings, puking their guts out in full, emergency, panic, disbelief, ruin, catastrophe. These are all the words that were coming out. And what we're seeming right now is that perhaps this was all related to this new agreement that Saudi Arabia signed with Russia, just as we were entering this 50th anniversary of Nixon taking us off of the gold standard. And so it appears that these confluence of events right now are actually all baked in the cake as per the temporal marker of that last infrastructure bill. So I wanted to ask you, how close are we to this moment of these puking congressmen? The WebBot data seems to suggest it could be just a couple of weeks away, maybe even early December, which of course would bring us into that famous WebBot data projection of the $600 silver and the panic to own into everything else other than the dollar here.
So here's where it sits right now. So again, that waiting, watching card, and from a safe distance. So there's this weird safety, even though that all sounds really traumatic, there's some kind of safety. So there's something already put in place that'll keep everybody safe. That's the feeling I'm getting. And it's also going to help us become more independent, because getting rid of that creepy system is a good thing. Think of the karma and energy attached to it.
Yeah.
We cut loose of that, man, we're going to be like energetically in way better shape. Okay. So there's a lot of people knowing about what's going on, knowing what's already in place, and looking forward to it. So none of it looks like all of that yucky. The only people going to be puking and feeling bad about it are people tied into the old system and who somehow didn't see it coming. That would be really foolish of them. But like, what are they living under a rock? They didn't see that coming. What a bunch of idiots.
Well, yeah, these people in power think that they'll be in power forever, and suddenly when they're not, they don't know how to act anymore. And of course, that is a good thing for us, not for them. Yeah. Sometime
before the end of either the month or the year, and the year's coming up pretty close too. But so I'd say it's like an ace doesn't really tell me it's within the year, and that's 2021. So it'd be before the end of the year, but it could even be before the end of the month.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely sitting right there, and it's karmic and just. So it's like, it's meant to be, it's karmic. It's good. There's no avoiding this. That's happening. That's already put in place.
No avoiding it. And that whole panic to own and the unobtainium when it comes to gold, silver, and crypto is just around the corner, apparently. And this is what Rob Kirby was saying on the show here, too. We're at this cusp and a culmination of all of these events. So, guys, if you haven't seen that show, go check it out. That was from earlier today, the Hyperinflation Report #2 with Rob Kirby. And tomorrow, I have Greg Hemke coming back on the show. And he's talking about options expiration and how an historic number are standing for delivery. So what he's explaining here too is that some people know what Janine just said, and they're all standing to get delivery of their physical silver contracts and gold contracts at the COMEX. So they're not willing to roll over those contracts and wait for the IOUs anymore. So there's something there happening. And of course, Andy Scheckman will be on the show again tomorrow to talk about this tightening of the supply here. So something is happening. And of course, what was that? There's a saying, something like, millionaires don't use tarots and seers, but billionaires do. Or something to that effect. So these people also have access to people like Janine, and they're making moves on it. Basically, is what's happening here, and they're taking physical silver here at a rapid clip. So check out that last episode tomorrow on options expiry with Craig Hemke. That will be absolutely cool. And in the meantime, if you guys are looking to put some of that physical silver into your pockets, this is the coupon discount codes for the Beyond Mystic audience. We have the Britannias that are back at $3.95 over spot, and also the 2022 silver maples here at $5.25 over spot. May look like a hefty premium, but that's still a lot cheaper than everybody else on the market. So check that out. That's beyondmystic.net /silver, and Andy will be on the show again tomorrow to take your questions here on the silver and gold market. Okay.
So can I just add something there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of my favorite and most interesting, of course, I had so many interesting clients, but over the years, but there was a couple that were huge tycoons, like business tycoons all over the world, businesses and stuff. And they were absolutely using my services for years and years and years. You better believe it.
No, that saying is absolutely true. And I forget where it came from and if I'm translating it from French, but they're saying, yeah, like millionaires don't use these services, but billionaires do. And that's why they're billionaires, basically, is the meaning out of all of this. So having that insight, it's not just, okay, so there's a difference between having the insight and acting on them. And I would suppose that your big tycoons were acting on the insight, and that's why they were big tycoons. Okay.
Well,
Nikki,
I helped them stay big tycoons, is according to them. So
Right.
There you go.
You were giving them the information, but they were also acting upon it.
Yeah.
Right. That's very important.
Maybe not, like, I'm not anybody's guru, so of course, but they would add all of their common sense. They're like, they didn't get to where they got to, these people, without really having some. But it's really interesting when you combine the spiritual knowledge and you're open to it, and then all of the other stuff it takes to get to a position like that in the world. It's fascinating.
Okay. Nikki is saying, well, hey, what's the price increase, the timing, end of the year? Okay, we just responded to that, but maybe there's a lag in the chat. So Nikki, thank you for that question. This other one, I'm like, oh man, you guys are asking tough questions in the Discord.
This silver's going big, like we said.
Oh, yeah, it's no question.
Yeah, going big. The sun, it's abundance.
And Rob Kirby was saying that too. Like if you look at Bitcoin at $200-300 without the manipulation, it's already sitting at 60,000 here today.
Yeah.
What's to say that's not going to happen to silver tomorrow when it decides to catch up and it breaks free of all this manipulation? This is what you've been capturing in the last couple of months of the Beyond Crypto Woo, that this manipulation is breaking, if not already broken, and we're in the midst of a strategic retreat. That's kind of what we were talking about last week here with these dollar-a-day moves. We're sitting at 25 here for silver now. So we're just at the beginning of that new trading pattern for silver. Still time, as long as you can get your hands on the physical. So that's the whole point maybe of the urgency there. I'll read this question, Janine, and you tell me if you want to tackle it or not here. Question, can Janine read into this guy, Phil G., who we just talked about here for the decertification in California? Okay, let me read this properly. Can Janine read into this guy by the name of Phil G., quote, not his real name apparently, and negative 48. He's calling him negative 48 a fake. Do we want to do this in the show? Do we want to even talk about this? Okay.
I'm not going to get into the hen pecking between apparent truthers or not truthers, or no. I don't want to be in that position, so no.
Yeah, I would only look at it. Well, I wouldn't never pin anybody against everybody. I don't do that on my show either.
Yeah.
But sometimes we'll look at a character, see, hey, if this information from this character is being presented, is that true or not? So sometimes we'll indulge in that. But even that is, you're putting us in a difficult position here, guys. And use your own discernment at this point. I think would be the best answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Susan Allen. Okay. Janine, the galactic craft from last week is still here. So you remember last week, there's this girl who was saying, Susan, who was saying that this craft was above her house here for the last number of days. And you were saying that they were somehow communicating to her and that she just needed to listen, or words to that effect is what you were saying. Now, what she's saying is, yeah, they're still here. Do they hear me when I talk to them? Question from Susan Allen.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wonder if these are like she's known them before in some other incarnation. Yeah. So they absolutely like just assume. Here's what I would do. Just assume they do and just carry on and see what happens. Assuming that they're hearing you, you're hearing. Listen for what they're like. Trust your instincts. If something drops in like that story I told that woman that sounded like a big story, I just let it out anyway. And like, I owned it. I was brave and said exactly what I got and just let it come out my mouth. And therefore that, like I put it out there. And I could have looked like a fool. So you sometimes have to just put it out there and assume that connection's happening. You've already been told it was, you intuited it was, you wouldn't have asked the question if you didn't. So it's about trust. These things work on a trust level. They're communicating, absolutely. Maybe it's even in a feeling way with that cup card. So maybe try to feel in your heart chakra what goes on when they're in the atmosphere above your place there.
Okay, very good. Another question here. Maybe I'll take a stab at answering it. You can decide if you want to answer it too, Janine. Question, a different Susan. This is a different nickname. Will there be a dip in silver before it goes up? To that, I would answer, you might not want to wait for the dip, because what does it matter if it dips $1 if we're looking at the $600 silver? The question is, the longer you wait, the harder it is perhaps for you to get the physical. So even if it does dip, when it goes back up very quickly, you might not be able to get it. This is how close we are to the end of this whole game. So playing it to save an extra dollar here when you know where silver is ultimately going to go might be a risky play. But I'll have Janine, if she wants to answer that question. Will it dip again here before it moves up crazy as we're talking about here?
Hustle, let's say. She's super independent. I feel like silver's given by the universe, maybe, for people to get on board with that. There's something spiritual, mystical about it. And it's been held back from the bad guys from us, but it's about to get released and go to a place where maybe it deserves to be, because it's very valuable. So I got a feeling it was that's an opportunity, give it to people. And if they can get in on it, even like 25 pieces right now, could be a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. And Hankowitz here is helping me in the chat. He's saying, if it dips too far too, nobody will want to sell it. And again, that's what a lot of this predictive linguistics, the remote viewers were saying, that it was no offer. Nobody would want to sell because they knew where it was going. And they're like, no, I'm not selling. Even whatever the COMEX decides the price is, everybody's going to say, no, we're not selling the physical.
I think it's a really good idea to get on board with it. I think it's only going really up, actually. I don't think it's dipping too much more with that Empress cards. She's getting just more luxurious.
Mhm. And again, if it does, it doesn't mean you'll be able to obtain it at that price either, because whatever the COMEX says, the premiums might go up to match, or
Yeah.
you'll see a difference in tightness in the availability of the metals here. So again, watch the episode tomorrow. You'll see what's happening at the COMEX. Again, guys, if you want to put your hands on that, beyondmystic.net/silver is the link. And what was the last thing I wanted to show you guys before I go? Let me see, where did it go? Why do I have this pyramid? Oh yeah, thank you everyone. PayPal tip jar. So this is so tonight. You guys, one of you guys will win this, and of course I leave the contest open all night. So if you guys are watching this on replay and you want to have access to this draw, by all means, please do use a PayPal tip jar, and we'll eventually find the winner. And Carla will probably contact you by the end of the day tomorrow. And so far, all of the pyramids that she's given away on the live show have all been sent out to the previous winners. Also, I just wanted to give that update for the audience as well. Carla's really quick on getting these out the door as soon as we have our winners. So again, a big thank you to Carla, and a big thank you to all of you guys here for supporting the show. Janine, okay, we're an hour, 5 minutes. Last words of wisdom. Do you want to pull cards maybe?
Yeah.
We're going to be a few days here before talking to the audience. You and I are going to be recording a show tomorrow on Walt Disney. So this is going to be our special investigation on Walt Disney. You guys kind of see where we're going here just with the picture there on the screen. This is a follow-up to the special investigation we did on the Wizard of Oz. We were supposed to record that yesterday. Because of the outage, it kind of pushed our schedule. So this will be available later tomorrow night to all the Insider Access Pass members as soon as we record, and then a day or two later we'll put out the notifications for the pay-per-view. In the meantime, Janine, what's going on? What does Universe want to let the audience know here before we go?
So we've got 2 10s. This was in the past. And then these two. So 2 10s. So 10s are ending. So right away, the feeling I got around, that one and that one. It's hard to do it like this. You got to set that thing up we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, these 2 10s. So the end of the way our communities have been, there's going to be a huge ending in the way we view communities and the way we operate in communities. And I'll tell you, my community really changed a lot since this whole thing, lockdowny thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's, so many people I don't even remotely keep in contact with or see. It's wild. And then a whole bunch of people that online mostly, like yourself, Catherine, Bryce, there's some people online that I see on the regular, and I watch, like Michael Jaco. I love watching him. And they feel like friends, and I've never met you guys, but I feel like literally part of your family. Like it's really interesting. So it's saying, really think about what is your community and be ready for a complete change in your community. It'll be very healing. Your real community is going to create itself out of this whole thing. Even it might be sad to let go of, but it's false in a way, because literally a whole bunch of people wouldn't even come to my housewarming party because there's going to be a bunch of people there. Okay, does that sound like people I'd want to be friends with? Who was I kidding? They're not my friends.
Yeah.
They're not bright enough to be friends. Like I'm going to be catty right now because it's so unfathomable to me. And secondly, they would exclude a whole part of the community. Like what kind of humans would do that? That doesn't make any sense. So those aren't my friends.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so we got to all think about that and get over, like if you had to say goodbye over here, guess what? It's because you're going to recreate. We're recreating everything. So you better get used to it. And I love recreation. So I'm good with it, but not everybody's that comfortable with it. So it might take a bit of work to get your head around. Yeah,
absolutely. And on that note, as we're talking about that, I have to encourage the audience to go check out this video here, Life is But a Dream with Catherine Edwards and myself. And we were talking about exactly what Janine just said there a couple of days ago about the mourning of our friends, families, people in our surroundings, letting go of all that so that we can make room for the new. So if you haven't seen that interview with Catherine and I, please do go check it out, and go check out today's interview also with Catherine and the amazing Janine. So that was posted about 5 hours ago, and you can find that on Catherine Edwards here on YouTube. Catherine and I will be back on the show next Monday, I think, at 1 p.m. and also at 4 p.m. for a special group conversation she's working on. So there's going to be a lot coming. She's putting out amazing content too. And she asked me to join this roundtable. I said, absolutely. I'll make time to be on your show again, Catherine. Absolutely amazing to have you on. All right, folks, that was Tarot by Janine. You can find Janine here at Tarot by Janine here on YouTube and also here on Sending Ravens. And finally, you can find me here at Beyond Mystic 3. And don't forget to go check this interview with Robin McLevy as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. I love you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Au revoir.